Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. People are still trickling in, but since we only have an hour, I think we should get moving along. My name is Valerie Smith, and I am the director at Parachute of our road safety programs. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today on the role of technology within Vision Zero. I'd also like to thank our longtime sponsor and partner at Desjardins. I'm moderating the panel live from the NACDO Designing Cities Conference in Boston, where for the next 3 days, I'm going to be joining over 1,000 road safety stakeholders to learn about innovation in road design, multimodal transport, and Vision Zero. I'd also like to remind everyone to please put questions in the Q&A. They will be monitored and shared by my colleague Julie at the end of the presentation. As many of you know, the need for more advanced, efficient, and streamlined data collection is required for us to really understand where interventions are needed most, to what extent they are needed, and to monitor and assess interventions that have already taken place. Technology solutions that collect data on road safety activities, vehicle speed, analytics, air quality, and even noise can assist us and practitioners in improving road safety for all road users. For cities advocating to implement Vision Zero, data can also help get buy-in from key stakeholders. We know that data can also be used to support decision-making, to deploy targeted enforcement, traffic calming interventions, and other mobility planning applications in both urban and rural jurisdictions. Evaluating road safety projects has always been challenging, but with technology solutions, we hope we can get the data to show the results and the effectiveness of the evidence-based interventions we are implementing. Our first presenter is David Ferguson. David is the Manager of Traffic Services with the City of Brantford. We've had the pleasure at Parachute of working with David on Vision Zero and on road safety for a number of years. With over 20 years experience in municipal transport in 5 municipalities, David has led multiple projects related to roadway safety and Vision Zero. He's recognized as a leader in road safety with a keen interest in utilizing technology to improve our roads. Throughout his career, he has been recognized for his work, receiving awards at both the provincial and federal level. Over to you, David.
Thanks, Valerie. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. A pleasure to be here this afternoon. I look forward to sharing some things that I've worked on over the years and just my experiences as a whole. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Just start here. There we go. Yeah, so I mean, things have evolved quite a ways from back at this point. Love this picture here. I particularly like the comment that it prevents spills from sudden stops. But I'm sure many of you may not remember a time when seatbelts weren't a requirement. I can remember back in the late 70s bouncing around the back seat of my dad's car as we drove through Toronto with no such thing as a seatbelt at that time. But like everything progresses and evolves, and thankfully we don't see things like this anymore. I've been working in the industry for over 20 years, started as a technologist, worked my way through various organizations. I'm in my 5th municipality now. One of the early years of my job was I moved to a city called Welland, a small municipality, had about 53,000 residents. And this was really where I first got into technology. If we were in a room, I'd ask how many municipalities on the line now have LED streetlights. So back in 2005 in Welland, energy rates were increasing. Our council was talking about implementing rolling blackouts because of the hydro costs. And so I started exploring LED lighting. At that time, it was being well used for parking lots and inside facilities. But I decided to sort of push the envelope as it relates to roadway lighting. And so we were able to be one of the first might have been actually the first in North America, maybe even the world, where we completely retrofitted our entire streetlight system to LED and had a communications program with it. So I was able to monitor the condition of those streetlights. And if we move forward to today and what's available, it's amazing. One, the prices come down considerably. The energy savings far exceeds what I had started with. But now there's items that you can install within your streetlight system to be able to monitor speeds and air pollution, noise pollution, and obviously do traffic counts. And it's incredible to see how, from when I started with streetlights, to see what has evolved within technology and what companies are bringing forward. I think it's important for us as municipalities, to really work with these companies, to give them an idea of what our needs are, especially as it relates to Vision Zero. I mean, now, I have programs where you can install these devices and monitor speed, and I can assess a segment of a roadway or do a traffic count, which in turn, depending on costs, of course, able to monitor traffic on a daily basis and identify any issues that may be popping up. One of the big things for me that I've learned in working with Vision Zero, of course, is the whole evaluation aspect. So in my previous job with the City of Hamilton, we were responsible for roadway safety. Obviously, something that I've taken over here in Brantford. The evaluation component is so important. To be able to identify and review your network, to identify problem locations. This is just an example. We utilize a program in Brantford and in Hamilton called TESS, which is a collision software program, able to do and complete network screening and provide these annual reports. And one of the greatest advancements that I've seen since I began working is the use of video and AI technology software to be able to evaluate intersections specifically and be able to identify issues around the vulnerable road user, pedestrian, cyclists, obviously, as well as obviously vehicles themselves. But I think this is a really key component, and I'm just going to try and share this. Let's see if we can do this. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see this. Might make you tense up a little bit, but as you can see, this is a study that we've recently completed using the video and AI technology. This location is one of the top 5 intersections within the City of Brantford that has a collision issue. And so we hired a consultant to undertake a road safety review, and obviously used video and AI technology. As you can see, the signals are currently red, and this is what happens. So again, one of the things we deal with a lot in municipalities, excuse me, is we'll receive complaints from the public about an intersection, and that there's a lot of issues around that location. There's a lot of near misses. And previous to this technology becoming available, we'd obviously review annual collision reports. We'd review the various collisions at that intersection, trying to identify patterns. And of course, you're not able to identify the near misses because there's no collision report. So this new programming, this new technology brings roadway safety to a whole other level. And then through this analysis, you're able to come up with various types of countermeasures to implement to obviously improve safety. You can see there in the bottom right, just for this intersection, this is just one example of the countermeasures. I think there was a total of 25 countermeasures to be implemented. But you can see they've identified the addition of curb extensions to narrow that crossing distance. It was identified that there was a conflict point with pedestrians crossing the roadway in this area. So we obviously want to enhance and shorten the distance for the pedestrians. But this is something that I've really enjoyed working on. I started this program similar to this in Hamilton just before I left. We were able to review 10 intersections, come up with a number of collision countermeasures to improve safety for vulnerable road users. Another area I've been heavily involved with, I mean, in today's day and age, most municipalities now, at least in Ontario, we're utilizing red light cameras. In Hamilton, we did a study where we were able to identify that the red light camera program was actually able to improve or reduce right angle collisions by close to 50%. And then injury and fatal collisions near 60%. Another study that we did there was that we installed pedestrian countdown signals at the red light camera locations, and we noticed a decrease in the number of violations by 40%. On the right-hand side, we have automated speed enforcement. This came into effect in Ontario just in the last couple of years. Again, this is taken from Hamilton. Through that project, analyzing the data. Obviously, the early implementation, we saw a lot of violations, a lot of numbers, but as we continue through the year with the program, we were able to see the violations continue to reduce. Still an extremely high number of violations were recorded, which put a lot of pressure on our court system. They weren't too happy about that, but there was a clear improvement in terms of vehicle speeds, and we'll see these rolling out more and more in Ontario in the years to come. Another thing I just wanted to touch on there, you'll see in the one photo, there is a radar message board. In my time in Hamilton, these were very successful. I think we were up to over 250 radar message boards. And one of the things we did with those is we actually were able to connect to those devices. We had a cloud-based system. It was a GIS mapping, and the public could actually go into the map, click on a location, and be able to actually see up to the minute speed data for those specific locations. And that was a huge success. One of the things I find, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. One of the things I find, obviously, with technology is there's a cost associated with that. So really, in the end, you need to look at sort of the cost benefit of what you're getting out of those systems. But it was an excellent tool and is actually something that we're rolling out in Brantford. One of the things we've been working on in Brantford, this was created in-house by our technical team using GIS and GPS data. So we have a road patrol program. They go out, they identify potholes, trip hazards, etc. Pin it onto a map. This information then gets or has access by the road patrollers. It's assigned to their specific areas. They arrange for upgrades to be completed. You can see down at the bottom left, it shows the cracking. The picture on the right is a picture of where they've actually filled in sort of the opening of the pothole itself. And then they're able to obviously track as they are completed. They get signed off, turned into a green dot. And just this year, we've been able to create or complete 2,900 pothole fills. Based on this project, it was kind of a pilot project. We're now advancing that again to go into, we have a tender out contract. We want to advance the program using obviously AI technology and software. But not only now are we going to be looking at potholes, we're also going to be doing assessments on our pavement marking conditions. So being able to identify crosswalks where the crosswalks have faded, the stop bars, our signage. It'll be able to identify signage issues as well as our street lights. If a road patroller is out during the evening and a street light is out, it'll be able to identify that a street light is out and obviously activate a work order to have the work completed. So we hope to have this program up and running early in 2023. Another thing that I think is really important in roadway safety and Vision Zero is really the engagement piece. This is something that we're working on here in Brantford. It's going to take me a little bit longer. We're a smaller municipality, so I'm just starting to build on a lot of the programs. But this was something that we did develop in the city of Hamilton. Obviously create a Vision Zero dashboard. And through that, we were able to provide links. So in any of these sections, you could click on any of these boxes and they'll take you to GIS mapping. But the one thing that most people were interested in was obviously collisions. So in this case, you're able to click on the collision fields. It provides you with a breakdown of all collisions, breakdown of pedestrian collisions, cyclist collisions. You can filter it by year. You can filter it and go into the map that is down here. You can zoom in, pick a specific location, pull up that dot, and it'll provide you with all the collision information that's occurred over that time period that you filtered. We also had a similar type program that provides traffic volume data. You can see on the right-hand side there, just some tweets that were sent out by a resident utilizing that program. And the thing that I found really interesting here was over the last little while, there were some collision issues occurring and the city was moving forward or recommending some changes at certain intersections. And essentially this person went in and sort of pulled the data to sort of question why they were picking the locations they were picking. So, but it's good to see that the data is out there and people are actually using it. And it sort of holds us accountable. Often we would get phone calls from residents and have discussions around the data that's available. I find it interesting in today's day and age, people are much more engaged, involved, especially around roadway safety, which also helps us trying to move programs forward, recommending funding for certain things when you have that public support. And then sort of wrapping it all together, one of the things that we're looking at is we are building a new facility here in Brantford for our operations yard, and we want to develop a central traffic management system where we're going to be able to monitor conditions on our roadways, monitor how our system is operating. If we have a provincial highway that cuts right through the middle of the city, unfortunately, there are times that the highway gets closed and we have to implement an emergency detour route. So we're able to monitor those routes, as well as obviously data collection. We're now investigating other opportunities rather than just the traditional ways of doing traffic counts, looking at other companies that are out there that have these traffic monitoring systems that can count traffic and monitor pedestrian activity, etc. So that's something we're looking to build over the next couple of years. There's a lot of great organizations out there that are doing some incredible work around in this area and monitoring, all with a focus on roadway safety and Vision Zero. So, you know, it's really an exciting time to be in traffic. I always think back to when I started as a technologist, you know, didn't actually have email back then. We would receive written letters from residents. You know, there's always a good and the bad to everything, but to see how things have evolved over the last 25 years, and where we are today, it really is an exciting time. And a lot of the young people that are out there, and I'm sure on this meeting, have these great ideas to really move things forward around roadway safety. So it's going to be exciting to see where we go over the next 10 years and what programs become available. Just in conclusion, some things that just some thoughts or ideas that I had. Again, I was at APWA last week, and everything was technology based. And so really, the future of technology and transportation and roadway safety and Vision Zero, we're in it now. And so I think it's really important for organizations, whether it's private business or the municipal organizations, to be able to develop those strategies, work in partnership with each other, as well as other organizations, and making sure that the programs that we're implementing within our municipalities are really programs that are beneficial to the residents, as well as working with others to work on the funding side of things, because for a small municipality it's difficult, don't have a lot of funding available. So being able to have these networking opportunities and relationships to be able to get information around opportunities to fund those programs. And hopefully that was under my 10 minutes, Valerie.
I think so.
Good.
So. Thanks, David. And a really great concluding slide, great segue on to our next presentation. Our second presenter is Ken Cartmill from Livable Cities. Livable Cities is a smart city technology division of LED roadway lighting, a street lighting and smart city technology provider, which was established in 2007. Parachute met with the folks from Livable Cities about a year ago, and we were really impressed by some of the technology that they were working with and that they shared with us. Ken Cartmill is responsible for all product development initiatives, technology partnerships, and the evolution and execution of the company's technology vision. He's been with the organization 13 years and has held various business development positions prior to this role. He began his career in a variety of sales roles at BlackBerry. He holds a bachelor's degree from Wilfrid Laurier University, where he studied psychology and business. Over to you, Ken.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, how's that? A pleasure to be here with you today. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet and discuss this important topic of utilizing technology to gain insight to enhance roadway safety. So that's really the focus of our Livable Cities division, gathering data insights faster, more cost-effective with easy to deploy sensors. So who are we? Covered briefly in the intro, we are a Canadian owned and operated company. We design our products in Canada. We manufacture them in Canada as well. We're based out of Halifax, and we also have a development office in Victoria, British Columbia as well. So we have coverage from coast to coast. And we really started out with that history in public safety. Street lighting at its core is a public safety asset. So as the company evolved, we started deploying street lighting, enhancing road safety through that technology. We started to hear back from the market that customers wanted to get access to more data, more information about what's happening in their city. And they were asking us what could be done with those street lighting assets. Street lighting is actually quite an interesting asset. On average, there is one street light for every 8 people in Canada. So when you look at the deployability of these assets, there's a very high density of lighting out there. So, the goal and why we're all working in this as a ecosystem of solution providers and municipal end customers. Really, the goal is to make communities safer and more livable. There's a long history of data collection to get the information required to create those interventions to make cities safer. And our primary goal as an organization is really to reduce the cost associated with that data collection, and also the challenges associated with that data collection. So there's certain segments of cities and roadways that can be a challenge to acquire that data using conventional technologies or the standard tools in the toolkit. So that's where we've looked to innovate and provide some opportunity to collect new data really through what we call microsensors. So when I say microsensors, we see it as a highly scalable technology, very small form factor, cellular connected devices, so easy to deploy. You don't need to build out a network, don't need to build out fiber connections or anything like that. Easy to deploy. And then really we see microsensors as complementary technology to the standard tools, methods, technologies that are being utilized today. We see it as a new solution that can augment the solutions that are being used within municipal governments, communities, provincial governments today. So possibly new to some members of the crowd here, with the exception of David, who has a long history in street lighting with Welland. On top of a standard street light, there is this power socket right here called a NEMA socket. So for the last 40 or 50 years, this socket has been used to put a little photo sensor in it to turn the light on and off. And that's really what the core of our scalable innovation is. It's really we're leveraging the location of the street lights. Like I said, one for every 8 people. They're typically every 30 to 50 meters in a community. We're using the location, density, the power, and also the mechanical attachment. So we've designed sensors to plug directly into that socket. And street lighting is actually more standardized than your power socket. So we use the same socket in Canada, US, Mexico, Caribbean, South America, United Kingdom, Australia. Really, this is a global standard here. So how the technology works, you plug the device directly into the street light. It is about a 2-minute installation process, and that includes having the bucket move from roadway level up to the street lighting height and back down. So we recently did a project where we installed 11 cameras. The cameras were installed in different parts of the community, and it was an 1 hour and 45-minute installation process. So very, very quick to install a group of sensors. The nice thing about this as well is that in every community that has street lighting, there is an established contractor or groups of contractors who are already qualified to install these types of devices. So there's no real new tools, training, no bespoke installations or special tricks of the trade required to be passed down from installer to installer to put out this type of equipment. And the advantage of the asset, streetlights on average are about 8 meters or 27 feet in terms of the installation height. So you get a really nice view over the roadway and for data collection. So very easy to use, a good picture of what's happening in your community, and you can gain new insights by getting access to this. So you know it's higher up than a traditional than a lot of traditional cameras would be, let's say at intersections. So you can get less occlusions in your video collection, as an example. So we do have air quality and noise sensors, a variety of sensors, but really based on the topic of discussion today, data collection and data insights to enhance road safety. Really wanted to focus on the road safety microsensors. The first of which is a speed sensor. So it collects your traditional speed metrics, average speed, 85th percentile. It reports on peak speed recorded every 15 minutes, as well as overspeeding by bin. And we really see the opportunities for usage for this for road safety analysis to see what's happening, really what are the current conditions, enforcement planning. So what kind of interventions are you planning to use, where your priority areas should be, and then really bringing that that loop full circle, analyzing those interventions to see if they've been a success. That's another advantage of deploying sensors on top of the streetlights. Generally speaking, people aren't walking around looking at the top of the streetlight. So in terms of devices that may alter user behavior and reduce speeds, if they see those calming devices deployed that are being used also for data collection, as a data collector, really this device is invisible to 99.99% of road users. So they won't see it out there. So you're really going to get unbiased data, and both prior to the intervention to determine this is really where you need to focus your time and effort, and also post-intervention. So if you're using a temporary tool to reduce speed, you can see how long that's effective. So data acquisition, really this is how it works. The device has a cellular on board. It sends that information to a CMS software, we call it. All of the devices have a GPS on board, so they self-locate on a map. And we're getting asked to learn new software, really all the time. And so we've really focused on, if you're an advanced user, you can go in, use the software, generate your own custom reports. But we also have standard reports. So you actually never need to log into the system. You tell us what kind of reports you want, the frequency that you want them, and then you can have an email land in your inbox with a PDF report attached. So if you want a report on enforcement planning, program effectiveness, we set the schedule, you tell us the data sets that you want, and it's delivered automatically. This is a snapshot of part of a report on speed. So a single location, we're doing average speed, the 85th percentile speed for that location, as well as the peak speed recorded. And this is an average of the average speed in 15-minute buckets, an average of peak speeds recorded as well. So over a longer time period, this is a 1-month period. And for overspeeding, we can overspeed by bin. So our standard is 0 to 10 kilometers an hour over the limit, 11 to 20, 20 to 30, and 30 plus, but there is up to 10 configurable bins. And then if you want enforcement period, if you're working with your local law enforcement, if it's an issue that's severe enough, you want to try to work on some ticket writing, we can also, their time comes at a cost to their department as well. So they want to use their time most efficiently. So we can actually generate reports that say, for this specific location, Monday from 5 to 6 p.m., Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. So really we can nail down the day of week, time of day, so those resources could be used more efficiently. And I mentioned earlier, really an ecosystem approach. So I saw in David's presentation, there was a photo radar, speed boards. We really see our scalable devices as devices that can be deployed across a community. When you see a red hotspot, then you can move those portable intervention devices to those specific locations. So for the next month, you may want to put a mobile speed board to that area. If the problem persists, you may want to relocate a photo radar device to that location as well. So really giving you that insight on where to deploy those interventions and also monitor their success. So this is some information on a pilot we're doing with Wellington PEI. They're doing a speed sensing pilot. They've used the data from the sensor to engage the RCMP to they needed data to bring to them to show them that there was an issue in their area. They have a provincially supplied speed board, which they just got operational again, and they deployed it during the pilot so that we can actually measure the effectiveness of the speed board, and after a specific time period, they're going to move it to another location, and we're going to use our sensor device to see how long was that speed board effective after it's been removed. But in our first period after the speed board was deployed, we actually saw in the high speed buckets, the greater than 30 kilometers an hour, we saw a 10% reduction in the number of vehicles going in excess of 30 of the speed limit. And we saw a reduction in the 20 to 30 kilometer an hour bucket as well. Interestingly, we saw an increase in the 0 to 10, but that's likely the users who had been going faster. They're pumping the brakes, slowing down, and creating more in this 0 to 10 over the limit category. We also have a camera. So, you know, we're new to this industry, the traffic industry, our background being lighting. We are hearing a lot about video data collection, video analysis, the use of great companies like Microtraffic and Transoft to do near-miss collision detection. So we have a camera device that can facilitate the collection of video to do that analysis. So we've also seen there's a high density of cameras at intersections, and learned that over 70% of pedestrian fatalities occur at non-intersection locations. So we have our device, you know, on the camera side, very much targeted towards that mid-block solution, being able to get visibility into what's happening outside of the intersection. And we'll see here. So this is a interesting case study. So we're starting to do pilots with some customers. You can see this is the same road segment, different day. You know, you have a construction worker standing in the middle of an extremely busy street, our Canada Post worker crossing. So really they're getting driven by this construction is creating barrier where there typically would be road crossing. People are, you know, identifying their own new area they'd like to cross and standing in the middle of the roadway. So we're seeing construction and temporary construction, a way to monitor that, see what the safety impact is. Bike and e-bike assessments. So we've been hearing lots of discussion around bikes and bicycle safety. We have here someone who it looks like they have some pedal assist going quite quick. So we can collect the video to identify, you know, how much encroachment is there of vehicles into that bike lane. And you can also monitor for faster moving bikes to see what's happening. And patio sidewalk encroachments. This is the last one. You see these two individuals over here. It's a good thing there was a bike lane. There's a very small sidewalk with bike lock setups here. So these two friends walking home late at night, one gave the other a playful shove, and if there wasn't a bike lane, he would have been in the middle of the road. So some kind of interesting use cases at mid-block data collection that can be facilitated with video. So that's the technology and examples I want to show you today. So appreciate your time, and look forward to some more discussion after the last presentation.
Thanks very much, Ken. Our final presenter today is Franz Lowenhers. He is the Mobility Planning and Solution Manager for the City of Bellevue in Washington. In this role, he leads a team responsible for strategic and innovative transportation, policy, and program development, including Vision Zero, pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure implementation. Sorry, 2 seconds. Franz focuses on integration of emerging mobility technologies that supports a strong public transport network and data collection and analysis systems. He's demonstrated a track record of success bringing together community groups with divergent opinions, advocating for and securing state and federal funding commitments for municipal priorities. Over to you, Franz.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to share insights from the City of Bellevue and Washington State's work on Vision Zero and the use of technology. as reflected on this slide, Bellevue is a Vision Zero city. Our city council committed to striving to achieve zero fatalities, serious injuries on our streets by 2030. And then staff worked very closely with the community, the Transportation Commission, and council in determining the best approach to that, leveraging insights from international cities. We settled on the safe system approach reflected on the graphic at the left, which includes these 8 different elements. Council approved 36 strategies nested within this overall framework. And then our city manager solidified that staff commitment in a strategic plan. And then to guide our work and monitor progress and accountability, annually we produce an action plan. And within that action plan, we have specific projects that we carry out. The 2022 Vision Zero Action Plan has 19 actions identified that are nested within this overall framework. And all of this is on our Vision Zero webpage. So that's some background for all of you about how we're approaching Vision Zero in our community. Delving into the topic of safe systems a little bit more, many of you are familiar with the principles. Today's discussion really centers on this idea of safety as proactive and a recognition that we really need to be working upstream of the problem, getting at the root causes before they materialize in a fatality or serious injury on our streets. And to that end, even though crashes represent a useful data point, they are a reactive model. They often take 5+ years of data collection before patterns emerge for us to really understand what the issues are at play. And David gave a good overview on why his community moved towards video analytics, which is what I'm going to talk about today, which really gets to the heart of what this person in a Twitter comment offered to the City of Bellevue as it relates to this location where he had observed multiple instances of close calls, and lo and behold, a crash took place. So how can we work upstream of these problems? How can we engage proactively? And that really builds on a practice that originated at Lund University in the 1980s in developing surrogate indicators of safety. And a commonly employed approach is using post-encroachment time, but there are myriad metrics that can help us better understand what are those hotspots so that we don't have to wait 5 years. We can supplement our understanding of problems between different road users earlier on and address them proactively. So there's been a fair amount of talk about video technologies and the like. There are a number of ways to approach this with mobile platforms. In the City of Bellevue's case, we are fortunate to have 100% coverage at all of our signalized intersections with 360 HD cameras, as well as 10 GB network speed. So that positions us well to leverage existing infrastructure for the purpose of processing that footage through analytics algorithms that then end up providing us with insights about road users, their movement, their speed, their interactions. Bellevue's been an early adopter of this in this arena. Our earliest work began with Microsoft and the University of Washington back in 2016 to 18. And in that early effort, we used video analytics for evaluating the efficacy of a demonstration bikeway project. We repurposed a travel lane through the heart of our downtown, and then we used the video analytics to count different road users And what we observed was there was a reduction in the amount of cycling on sidewalks, reducing friction with pedestrians. And those cyclists with that separated space on street felt much more comfortable. So you saw an uptick in cycling on street. And there was no real discernible impact to motor vehicle operations as a result. So this really helped our city council decide this project was worth advancing, and we made it permanent from that kind of rapid build investment scenario. So that was our early work, and it was really, again, more counting. We wanted to take it to the next level and use it for safety analytics. And so we set in place a follow-up partnership, this time with Transsoft Solutions, at the time known as Brisk Synergies, Together for Safer Roads, and again, the University of Washington, their PACTRANS Region 10 consortium. And in that work, we looked at 40 different signalized intersections and road user interactions. We were able to evaluate trajectory data, look at heat maps, again, post-encroachment time. Where were we observing a high incidence of those more significant conflicts where less than 2 seconds of time-space relationships were being observed, and looking at speed as well. These are this chart reflects the speed of different road users in specific movement scenarios. So all of those were dashboards. This is an example of one of those post-encroachment time evaluations. This left turning movement with the left yellow circle around it. You can observe the blue line, the white vehicle traveling at 45 miles per hour in this, and reducing their speed to 36 miles to narrowly avoid colliding with that left turning movement. So these kinds of events were identified, as were instances like this one, where you can, if you look closely at the signal head, you can see it's orange. The vehicle on its approach in the dilemma zone is traveling at 63 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone. They accelerate to 68 miles per hour to get through the red at this point, traveling at 33 miles per hour over the speed limit. So these kinds of events are identified through this work. I encourage all of you to go to our Vision Zero webpage. We documented our work in these 3 reports. Some of the observations from this network-wide assessment are reflected here. So we were able to identify in that 1 week of data collection over 8 million observed road users. The vast majority of those, 97.3%, were motorists. And then you can see by color intensity, darkest brown being the most significant amount of volume where those were occurring. So that gave us insights on where we could observe exposure for motorists, people walking and biking. We also documented critical interactions. So there's a number of different ways of categorizing critical interactions. Obviously, in the pyramid at the right, you can see interactions where there's no real conflict made up the majority of road users observed. This is a PET score of greater than 5 seconds. This signifies a situation where there's really not a clear conflict. What we did observe in those less than 2 second PET scores, 20,000 different critical conflict events observed during that 1 week. And then you can see on the left in a map where those critical interactions were observed, layered on top of our high injury network, which really informs kind of a high level screening tool for us. So this next one shows in a similar fashion the speed profile that we observed. So we observed 870,000 speeding events. 11% of all drivers were speeding in this 1 week time period. And so again, on the left, you observe the concentration of where that higher level of speeding was taking place. It was important for us as we were looking at this data to determine the extent to which there was correlation between the conflict data and our crash data. So TransSoft Solutions, City of Bellevue, we worked to cross-reference those, run a R-square analysis. We ended up documenting that indeed conflicts were a useful surrogate for crash data. They really do provide you with a leading indicator of where crashes are likely to occur, and specifically the types of crashes. So yeah, in this particular instance, where at 124th Avenue Northeast and Northeast 8th, where we were observing a significant number of conflicts with left-turning vehicles with the posing through vehicles, that kind of occurrence was documented in the crash data. And here's actually a crash that occurred at that location, along with an email quote from a resident who sent us this feedback about this previous to our intervention at this location. So here you can see from the results of our analysis at that location, these critical conflicts, less than 1.5, far left, where speeding was 30+ miles per hour. So that red zone. And so those were instances where we clearly observed the high incidence of conflicts, high critical conflicts. There's an example where observed that the through vehicle is traveling 28 miles per hour. They reduced their speed to 22 miles per hour to narrowly avoid colliding with the left turning vehicle. So we ended up changing signal phasing here. We went from permissive to protected permissive operations. We ran an analytics on this before and after, and we observed that this $10,000 signal change yielded a 60+% reduction in conflict. So a favorable return on investment. And this is a quote from another resident sending us a thank you, a different resident from the prior one that I shared with you, signaling that the intervention that we made did yield a safer environment. Our third analytics partnership, this time with Microsoft Jacobs Engineering and Advanced Mobility Analytics Group, looked at the efficacy of leading pedestrian interval at 20 different locations. In a before-after assessment, we determined that LPI resulted in a 42% reduction in vehicle pedestrian conflicts. And that subsequently informed our next round of implementation. So we are now, during the remaining course of this calendar year, rolling out LPI across our downtown in 3 waves. So that's reflected in this illustration. And then finally, our latest video analytics partnership, this time with all of the entities reflected on this slide, including Advanced Mobility Analytics Group, again, Amazon Web Services, Ouster, Elksite, Fair and Piers, and SCATS, which is Transportation for New South Wales, our adaptive signal control company that we use. And so in this case, we're really taking video analytics to its final stage of evolution in a truly optimized manner. As reflected upon earlier, a lot of it was to flag instances where problems were detected and then to evaluate efficacy of the countermeasure. In this case, what we're doing is working together with these companies, developing a platform that can respond in real time. For example, a pedestrian is identified based on their walking speed and where they're located in the crosswalk is and in relation to the time remaining on their walk interval that they're simply not going to make it. That event is flagged and sent to our signal controller so that the signal controller can in real time hold those conflicting movements, provide that individual with the time required to get it, make their way across. We're using, in this instance, in addition to our 360 HD cameras, LiDAR and there's an output from that platform. And that summarizes Bellevue's use of video analytics towards Vision Zero. I will say, just as David mentioned, a whole host of other work that we're doing, we are also engaged in a number of other performance reporting and also performance assessment dashboards. We're using connected vehicle data to identify roadways where high speeds may be contributing to more crashes and unsafe conditions. We're also using drones for crash forensics. We're also about to set in motion a partnership where we're using roadside units at a number of our signal systems to provide vehicle to everything data. So there's a whole host of other projects that I could have spoken to in this technology arena, but in today's event with time constraints, I limited it to video analytics. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Franz, for running through all that amazing information so quickly. And thank you to all our presenters for sharing so much valuable information and a lot of information. So I'm going to just jump into two questions from our chat. A number of them have been answered, so I'd encourage you to check out the Q&A. Also, please reach out to myself or Julie from Parachute to connect with any of the presenters to learn more about what they are doing and what they have to offer. So one question, Franz, for you specifically was, have you implemented slow zones in Bellevue, 20 miles per hour, 30 kilometers per hour? And if so, have you evaluated the impact on safety, increases in active road users, et cetera? And, as you know, Franz, there's a global movement around speed reduction in residential areas from 40 to 30, from 50 to 40 in some cases. What about in Bellevue?
Thank you for that question. I did include in the chat a link to one of our speed limit reduction assessments, and I encourage you to contact my colleague John Murphy, who's referenced there. Just as another add-on to that, Bellevue is getting started this year in developing a speed management plan, and so you'll hopefully we'll have more information to report on our safe speeds work, which includes both the use of technology. I made reference to that dashboard that uses connected vehicle data, and how do we measure progress over time. But yes, to answer the question, we are using these slow zone undertakings and evaluating them.
Thank you. And Ken, this one is for you. As I said, we met with your group prior, and we thought some of your technology was really interesting in terms of data collection. If we have some folks from municipalities on the line and they want to begin a process of assessment and engage with some of the technology you might have to offer, what is the process for this?
Well, they can reach out to us. Hopefully that we can share our information following the presentation on how to reach out, but we are in a active stage of piloting and engaging municipals to test and evaluate the technology. So we're very open to partnership. We have a very municipal and government friendly MOU process to engage around pilots and technology evaluation. So we're happy to engage anyone who's interested in evaluating the new technology.
And I'm going to keep you on the line, Ken, for one more question. And Franz, this might apply to you and David as well. And this will be our final question. Are there any noise sensing capabilities in any of the equipment? I remember hearing about some noise sensing capabilities. This Ingrid says, urban noise is a huge issue for both health effects and is caused by excessive speeds. So we know that noise pollution and regular pollution is a big issue when we have speed on roads. So over to you, Ken, for a quick answer on that.
Yes, we do have noise sensors as well as air quality sensors. So in our first evaluation of the noise sensors, people are focused on them around port applications, so measuring truck noise, but they're also combining noise sensors and the video recording as well. So when we record a peak noise event, you can actually go back and look at the event that caused that. So we're that's something we're actively working with municipals on, from noise monitoring, as well as helping to identify the source, not just that there was a loud noise event recorded.
Okay, it looks like we're out of time, and I know some people have a hard stop at 2, so I'm going to wrap it up, but I'd encourage anyone on the webinar to reach out to us with more questions, and we can keep the conversation going with our panelist. Yeah, I'd like to thank all the presenters again for taking time to join us today for a really interesting discussion. The slides will be available to all participants as well. We've been asked that question a few times. Yeah, thank you once again to everyone here today.